With all the new trailers, interviews, and other info we've received over the past several months, things are starting to become a little clearer. Or, I don't know, maybe not. One thing that still remains a mystery though is whether or not there are actually two timelines, or if we've been deceived into thinking there are two timelines. The purpose of this video is to analyze everything we know so far that supports the single timeline theory. Some of the things I say in this video can be explained by the two timeline theory, but that's not what I'm discussing today. As for myself, I'm not sure where I stand yet, so let me be clear. I have no firm stance on this yet. I'm only discussing what we know so far. I can see the validity to both sides of the argument. When I first finished Remake back when it released, I firmly believed in a single timeline and never even had the thought of two timelines, but then I started second guessing myself after seeing things online. In addition to providing supporting evidence, I'll also touch on some discrepancies with this theory. If you enjoy Final Fantasy updates, theories, and other content, please consider subscribing so you don't miss out. So, if we're dealing with a single timeline, we can assume everything we've seen with Zack actually takes place in the Lifestream. From his arrival to Midgar, to his conversations with Marlene, Biggs, and Elmira. I'll get into all that and more as the video progresses, but before we get into all that, let's start at the very beginning. One of the biggest clues suggesting two timelines in Final Fantasy VII Remake was the scene with Zack at the end of the game, and to be more specific, the bag with Stamp on it. The bag suggests Zack is not in the same reality as the one we experienced throughout Remake because Stamp was a different breed. Now, they clearly wanted us to see that bag. They slowed it down and everything. While it's likely this indicates a completely separate timeline, it's also possible it's just there to show the audience Zack is in a separate place from what we just experienced in Remake. So, not necessarily a new timeline, but the Lifestream perhaps. So if Zack's timeline, or whatever the hell you want to call it, actually takes place in the Lifestream, then one of the biggest questions surrounding this is why people like Marlene and Elmira appear. And I think I might be able to answer that. The Lifestream is the essence of the planet, a churning river of memories. As they come together and drift apart, a story is given shape. This quote is directly from the beginning of Ever Crisis. This isn't anything new, in fact this is information we've always had. But let's think about this for a second. The Lifestream is a churning river of memories. As they come together and drift apart, a story is given shape. Now, think back to the Lifestream sequence in the original Final Fantasy VII. During this time, Tifa and Cloud are basically in a plane of existence based entirely on memories. We see them as they were when they were young, and we also see them with the other children of Nibelheim. Seeing the other children in the Lifestream doesn't necessarily mean they're dead or physically in the Lifestream, it's just memories. This could be very similar to what Zack is going through. So why is Marlene there when Zack doesn't know who she is and can't possibly have memories of her? Well, if I had to guess, it's either because of Biggs' memories or it's simply the planet's memories. If Biggs' memories are at play, then it makes total sense why we see Marlene. But what about Elmira? Well, Biggs mentioned how he'd visit the orphanage from time to Cloud, so I don't think it's too far-fetched to think he encountered Elmira at some point during one of his visits since she lives in the same sector. Think about your own dreams for a moment. I'm positive you've encountered people you think you've never seen before in your life. This is because our brain retains faces of people even if they're complete strangers, and we subconsciously recall them during dreams. Almost like our dreams are cycling through these memories we aren't even aware we have. So I think it's possible this world we see with Zack and Biggs is almost like a shared dream taking place in the Lifestream. And to be clear, I use the word dream for lack of a better word. It's more like shared memories bleeding into each other to tell a story within the Lifestream. Because after all, the Lifestream basically contains the wisdom and memories of all living things. Or perhaps Biggs' memories have nothing to do with it and it's simply just the planet's memories, and the story is all from Zack's point of view. This is probably far more likely, but I mean it's kind of fun to think about it from every angle. As they come together and drift apart, a story is given shape. The story of Zack is given shape based on the memories in the Lifestream. It's basically a fictitious world born in the Lifestream, and remember the quote they keep teasing us. What is fact, what is fiction? This is a storyline we have yet to witness, but I'm sure its development is crucial to the overall storyline. The only thing that isn't a memory is the dialogue we hear from Elmira, Biggs, and Marlene when they're speaking to Zack. Marlene can kind of be explained because of her mysterious connection to the planet. Perhaps she's communicating to the Lifestream's representation of her so she can warn Zack about Aerith. But, I mean that's pretty much it. All these conversations with Zack never existed, therefore how can they be memories? Perhaps there's a little more involved in this world we see in the Lifestream. I'll get into more of this a little later. Now let's talk about the wanted posters, and more specifically, who's crossed off from what. In Zack's world, we see everyone crossed off with the exception of Biggs. But in Cloud's world, no one is crossed off. In Cloud's world, I'm assuming no one is crossed off because, well, I mean, for one, Tifa and Barrett are obviously alive and traveling with Cloud, and two, Biggs and Jesse are most likely buried in the rubble from the plate collapsing. As for Wedge, it's still a little unclear what happened to him, but from the looks of it, it looks like he got pushed out of a window by the Whispers like 60 floors up near the end of Remake, so perhaps his body hasn't been recovered yet. So for the wanted poster in Zack's world, things get a little murky, so bear with me. We saw Barrett and Tifa being hauled off on stretchers at the beginning of one of the trailers, so we can assume they're either dead or they're in custody. As for Wedge and Jesse, they're either crossed off because they died from the plate collapsing, or they're also in custody. Here's where things get a little confusing. Let's say Wedge and Jesse are actually dead in Zack's world, just like Tifa and Barrett, okay? This kind of leads us to believe they're alive in Cloud's world because, well, Tifa and Barrett are alive. Almost like if you're dead in one, you're alive in the other. So should this be the case, the clip we saw of Jesse performing at the Gold Saucer is actually her and isn't some virtual experience. This means Wedge will make an appearance at some point as well. But it just doesn't make sense, right? I mean, why would Jesse just go perform at the Gold Saucer after all that shit that happened in Midgar? Perhaps it's to escape reality and run away from it all? I really do think it's a hologram as the caption indicates. And I'll take it one step further and speculate this clip of Cloud and Tifa is them looking at a poster of Jessie. They're talking about her and remembering their time with her because I have to admit, Tifa looks a little sad here. She almost has that look on her face when people reminisce about their dead loved ones. Sad they're gone, but happy about the memories they still have of them. Now what if I told you Wedge and Jesse are actually alive in Zack's world, but they're in custody? The red X doesn't necessarily mean they're dead. And perhaps Biggs assumes they're dead because he saw the news report with Barrett and Tifa being hauled off. But if Jesse and Wedge are alive, then this further supports the single timeline theory because now we have Zack, Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse all alive in the Lifestream, which makes sense because in reality they're dead. So why are they still conscious and why haven't their spirits fully returned to the planet? Well, really all we can do is speculate. Perhaps Zack hasn't returned to the planet simply because Aerith is preventing it, and it's possible she's doing the same for Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse. I mean, what the hell was that little prayer she did when she knew the plate was going to collapse? She's capable of retaining her own consciousness within the Lifestream, and we even see her and Zack at the end of Advent Children. Afterwards, they presumably return to the planet once and for all after everything is okay in the end. One could argue Zack, Cloud, and Sephiroth have always been sort of the crux of Final Fantasy VII. Think back to the Nibelheim incident when Cloud killed Sephiroth. Sephiroth died of course, but I mean kinda not really. It's possible Zack mirrors much of what Sephiroth went through. We've seen the feather several times and I think it can be simplified to good versus evil. The white feather represents Zack's strong will to be a hero, which could allow him to avoid fully dissolving into the Lifestream. The black feather of course represents Sephiroth and his refusal to return to the planet. It's just like the classic good versus evil, light versus dark, only now we're seeing both sides of the spectrum and Cloud is smack dab in the middle. I can't remember who it was, but one of the developers used the term future memories. So what if the planet's preventing the souls from dissolving into the Lifestream because they're needed to protect the planet from Sephiroth now that destiny has been unwritten? And Aerith joining the Lifestream finally sets everything in motion. So maybe these future memories allowed the planet to act accordingly now that fate seems to have been changed. And then there's the possibility of Minerva being behind this entire thing taking place in the Lifestream, but I won't get into that right now. It's been a long time since I read The Maiden Who Travels the Planet, and I'm aware it's kind of a gray area on whether or not it's canon because, if I remember correctly, it contradicts something in Dirge of Cerberus. But what I do remember is it further explores this idea of consciousness in the Lifestream and what the overall nature of the Lifestream is. Perhaps they drew inspiration from this novel to further explain the nature of the Lifestream in the remake project. I'll discuss this more in a little bit. So what about the bodies of everyone else? They're either dead or in custody, along with Jesse and Wedge. Here's where some cracks start to form, but we can still speculate a few possibilities. Sephiroth's corruption of the Lifestream and control over the Whispers could definitely have something to do with their dead appearance. Perhaps this plane of existence Zack is in was influenced by Sephiroth's corruption of the Lifestream, and maybe this led to the creation of false memories such as the party being dead. One could also argue their bodies appear in the Lifestream because it's specifically based off of Biggs' memories. His very last memory was thinking about what it meant for him and everyone else if the plate collapsed. So naturally, since he believes he survived the collapse, he thinks they all perished. But then again, the news reporter specifically says a massive tornado swept through Midgar. So either he starts questioning his own memories, or he thinks they all survived only to die later on. Maybe Aerith has something to do with it too. If you remember at the end of Remake, we walk through the little portal Aerith created. She also says something along the lines of, "This is the point of no return. If we succeed, if we win, we'll be changing ourselves." Well, we succeeded and we won, so what the hell did we change about ourselves? Did the party actually die and their souls are stuck in the Lifestream? Like, are their bodies progressing through the story of rebirth absent of their physical soul? I mean, I'm not too sure about that. Perhaps after the party goes through the portal, the tornado caused the planet to essentially create a memory of the party dying from the tornado. Then we see the news announcement mentioning the massive tornado swept through Midgar, all while seeing everyone's dead bodies. This could explain their bodies, but I mean, it's still a stretch. As I stated earlier, the cracks begin to form in this theory when you try to explain the significance behind everyone's lifeless bodies appearing in the Lifestream. It's possible to come up with a decent explanation, but it seems like everything I can come up with has pretty big discrepancies. I tend to overthink things, and oftentimes the answer is very simple. But if you have an explanation, I'd love to hear it in the comment section. Now I want to switch gears for a moment. There are some very significant statements from the developers that point to this being a single timeline. In regards to when Remake was released, Kitase said, "The dev team saw fans' reactions and also deep diving into theories about mysteries unveiled during the game, and the team thought, oh, this might make it a bit awkward for some parts in the second game." This to me basically says you guys are overthinking this way too much. The new mysteries he refers to are most likely the Whispers and Zack. When I first finished Remake back when it released and saw that Zack survived, my mind immediately went to, no way, we're gonna get a Lifestream sequence with Zack. I was a little confused by the Whispers, of course, and the whole defeating Destiny thing, but it never really occurred to me that Zack actually survived because from my perspective, we changed the future, not the past. I kinda thought the direction they were going was more along the lines of Zack doesn't know he's dead. It wasn't until I got online and started seeing everyone mention two timelines that I started second guessing myself. There were so many compelling arguments for this theory, and it's funny because for the most part I avoid theories, but it got to the point where I was worrying if I just completely misunderstood the ending. That was something I didn't want, so I tried my best to figure out what I misunderstood. And slowly but surely I convinced myself there are two timelines. Then years later we get a trailer at Summer Game Fest showing everyone is dead. It was at that moment I truly started believing in two timelines. But as time went on, statements from the developers about Rebirth came out, such as with Final Fantasy VII Remake, we've been careful to maintain the storyline from the original game, while at the same time adding extra story content to flesh it out as a remake. It's the game we all know and love, and they accomplished exactly what they wanted to by introducing these new elements. There have been some wild theories out there, myself included, but ultimately the story will be preserved. Which leads me to the next quote by Kitase. "The overall storyline will not go wildly out of the way that it will not add up to Advent Children in the end." I don't think anyone wanted that. That's not what we were looking to create here. But see, Nomura previously used the words link up to Advent Children, and I'll never understand why people really dug into this. Lead into, link up, add up, it all means the same shit to me. And his statement was really the only statement that made rounds specifically because of the words link up. It seems like everyone disregarded Kitase's statement saying it'll add up to Advent Children. Kitase follows up with, to make sure it doesn't become stale and people know exactly where it's going, we add in extra elements which add that little bit of doubt. Getting the right balance of that is key. Ultimately, we're not trying to change the Final Fantasy VII story into something really different. The overall balance wouldn't really allow for that anyway. Two timelines really changes it into something different. But you know what doesn't? Zack, Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse actually being dead, with Aerith to follow soon after. This could be one of the new elements moving forward for the rest of the trilogy, believing they're alive. Seeing Zack's side of the story adds that little bit of doubt when in reality we're just seeing another side of the story we never got to see before, and it's all taking place in the Lifestream. And finally, let's talk about the most recent statement in regards to Zack. Hamaguchi said, through him, players will be able to experience and understand more of the Final Fantasy VII worldview, and it will deepen their understanding of the Final Fantasy VII world. We've used the character Zack to depict the combined view of the original creator's intents of how this world of Final Fantasy VII came to be and its policies and rules governing this world. This is going to be depicted through Zack. As much as the whispers within the story, Zack is an equally, immensely important, crucial, key character to this story that I believe fans will enjoy within Rebirth. Well, that pretty much says it all. Like I mentioned earlier, I think the remake trilogy will explore the nature of the Lifestream similar to the maiden who traveled the planet. It seems like the remake trilogy will just expand on things we've never seen before. Events you could say always happened, but were never really portrayed in the original game. We'll get to find out exactly what happened in the Lifestream and what role Zack and Aerith play in preventing Sephiroth's plan. I'm not sure how we'll deepen our understanding of the Final Fantasy VII world through Zack if he's in a completely different timeline. This entire statement makes perfect sense when you think of his entire story arc taking place in the Lifestream. Zack will probably learn a lot about the Lifestream, and perhaps we'll learn more about Minerva since the statement mentions how the world of Final Fantasy VII came to be and its policies and rules governing the world. And if Zack is equally important as the Whispers, then I suspect we'll learn more about them in the Lifestream as well. The Lifestream is the essence of everything, and what better place is there to learn more about the Final Fantasy VII world than from Zack's perspective from within the Lifestream. For the most part, the single timeline theory makes the most sense with regards to the original Final Fantasy VII. If we're adding in timelines and all this other crazy shit, it's not really Final Fantasy VII anymore. A plane of existence in the Lifestream based on memories is Final Fantasy VII. Zack and Aerith being dead, events leading to, adding up, linking up, whatever the fuck to Advent Children, these are all characteristics of Final Fantasy VII. But the two things I personally have the hardest time explaining are what Sephiroth could mean by joining of worlds and why the party appears dead in the Lifestream. If we're sticking to two timelines, it's easy. The party is dead in one and not the other. And then Sephiroth is merging the timelines. It gets a little more complicated though when you approach it from the single timeline angle. But hey, perhaps this is just another mystery the developers introduced to keep us guessing. It could be something extremely simple, or in the end it could really just end up being two timelines. Let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and please consider subscribing. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.